Power plant, lubrication systems. What is the primary purpose of an aircraft reciprocating engine lubricant? To reduce friction between moving parts. What are the two important characteristics relating to viscosity that an engine oil must possess? It must be light enough to circulate freely and heavy enough to provide the proper oil film at engine operating temperatures. What is the most critical lubrication point in a gas turbine engine? The turbine bearing. What may happen to an oil that is too low in viscosity at engine operating temperatures? It is likely to become so thin that the oil film between moving parts is easily broken. What factors must an engine manufacturer consider in determining the proper grade of oil for an engine? Operating load, rotational speeds, and operating temperature. What is the function of a dispersant additive as contained in ashless dispersant oil? A dispersant helps keep an engine interior clean by keeping sludge-forming contaminants in suspension in the oil until they can be trapped by the filter or drained out at oil change. Why must aircraft reciprocating engines use an oil with a relatively high viscosity? Aircraft engines have large operating clearances, high operating temperatures, and high bearing pressures. Why is an oil tank required to have an expansion space? To provide for thermal expansion and air in the return oil. What is the purpose of an oil cooler bypass valve? An oil cooler bypass valve directs the oil through or around the oil cooler to keep the oil temperature within operating limits. Where does the oil temperature bulb usually sense oil temperature? At the engine oil inlet. What does the presence of metal particles in an engine oil filter indicate? Possible engine internal failure. Name at least 2 areas of turbine engine oil system where oil screens, filters may be located. Oil pressure system, scavenge system, at or just before the oil jets. What are some oil contaminants? Moisture, acids, dirt, carbon, and metal particles. What type of oil is used in turbine engine oil systems? Synthetic oil. What could be the cause of excessive oil consumption without evidence of oil leaks in a reciprocating engine? Worn or broken piston rings. What would be an indication of inadequate oil supply? Low oil pressure and high oil temperature. What would be an indication of an obstruction in oil cooler passages? High oil temperature. What could cause oil foaming? Diluted oil, contaminated oil, and the oil level being too high. What are 2 types of turbine engine oil coolers? Air-cooled and fuel-cooled. What controls oil pressure in a gear-type oil pressure pump? An oil pressure relief valve.